Welcome back to The Ambassadors. I'm thrilled to dive into today's topic with you. Let's get right into it.
Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating text. It's a daily devotional written by Ambassador David F. Nwefelu, titled Holiness, the Conduit of Sustained Signs and Wonders. Whether you're deeply familiar with this specific theological framework, or you're just curious about how global digital ministries operate and structure their messages, this is going to be an eye-opening deep dive for sure. We're going to objectively explore the direct link the author draws between a person's private purity and their public access to divine power. All right, let's jump right in.
We're going to break this down into 4 quick parts. First, the core message of holiness. Second, biblical examples of purity. Third, modern application in prayer. And finally, the ministry's global mission.
Section 1. The core message of holiness, defining the foundation.
The author explicitly states right up front that holiness is not about legalism. It's not just a rigid checklist of rules. Instead, it's defined as an alignment with God's nature. The text argues that sure, God can sovereignly use anyone, but he consistently entrusts lasting supernatural power to what it calls clean vessels, basically people who walk in purity, obedience, and reverence. The idea here is that because God is holy, his power flows most freely through those whose conduct actually honors him.
And the author identifies a really interesting tension in the modern world. On one hand, there's this intense, widespread desire for signs, wonders, and supernatural manifestations. But on the other hand, there's a stubborn resistance to the sanctification, purity, and spiritual discipline that's actually required to sustain them. The devotional makes the case that a clean vessel sustains divine power without corruption, pride, or compromise, and that holiness literally acts as a protective shield for that power.
To really ground this theological thesis, the author anchors the message in a specific biblical directive. It's a quote from 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 15 from the King James Version, which says, "But as he which hath called you is holy, so be ye holy in all manner of conversation." Now, in this context, conversation actually refers to your entire conduct and behavior. It reinforces the idea that this alignment with the divine has to be absolutely comprehensive.
Moving on to Section 2, Biblical Examples of Purity, Historical Blueprints.
The author builds this case by tracing a line right across different eras of biblical history. First, he points to Samuel, who ministered before the Lord in purity from childhood and became a prophet whose words never failed. Next, we look at the era of Elijah. His strict separation unto God resulted in literal fire falling from heaven in response to his prayers. Finally, we hit the New Testament and the era of the apostles. They lived these highly disciplined lives devoted to prayer and the word, resulting in the extraordinary miracles recorded in the book of Acts. The common denominator for all of them? Their spiritual authority was deeply rooted in their consecration. But there's a serious flip side to this coin. This kind of power comes with immense responsibility. The text highlights a severe historical warning through the story of Ananias and Sapphira from Acts chapter 5. According to the devotional, this account reveals the devastating consequences that hit when holiness is violated. It serves as a stark reminder to the reader that God's power absolutely cannot be treated casually or without deep reverence. All right, Section 3, Modern Application in Prayer, taking immediate action. Here, the devotional transitions from teaching to direct action, outlining 3 highly specific steps for the reader to apply today. Step 1, examine your lifestyle honestly. The author prompts you to look for areas needing consecration, because, as he puts it, power is sustained by purity. Step 2, make a firm intentional commitment to a life of holiness. And step 3, actively separate yourself from anything, whether that's a habit, a relationship, or an environment that weakens your spiritual authority. Following a provided prayer of salvation for new believers, the ministry immediately offers resources for further spiritual education. If you're committing to this path, the text directs you to purchase 2 specific instructional ebooks. The first is titled Understanding Born Again, which is designed for new believers, and the second is The Power of Prayer and Fasting. Both of these are distributed digitally via links to the seller platform. So you can see a very clear, structured pipeline here, taking people from daily reading straight into deeper, invested learning.
And finally, Section 4, the ministry's global mission, organizational logistics.
500 million. Just let that number sink in for a second. That is the staggeringly ambitious goal of this organization, formerly titled Operation 500 Million Souls for Christ. So this isn't just a simple daily newsletter. It's actually one piece of a massive, highly ambitious evangelistic operation.
To reach a number that huge, you obviously need serious infrastructure and personnel. And the ministry categorizes audience participation into 3 distinct roles. First, you can join as a prayer partner, interceding daily for souls. Second, you can become a volunteer missionary, serving on short or long-term mission fields. Or third, you can step up as a kingdom investor, providing financial support to the vision through consistent giving. They are essentially building a fully mobilized workforce of spiritual, physical, and financial contributors.
And how exactly do they coordinate all these people? Well, through an incredibly robust digital ministry network. The text reveals specialized WhatsApp groups. There's one for Midnight Prayer, one specifically for Ambassadors' Tongues declarations, and even one called Ambassadors Business Tycoon for networking. Beyond WhatsApp, they maintain a broadcast presence with messages on Telegram and active content channels spanning Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, and YouTube. It is a completely, fully realized, multi-platform digital ecosystem.
But honestly, perhaps the most impressive logistical feat is their global prayer time zones network. They coordinate synchronous daily prayers across more than 20 countries. We're talking midnight in Nigeria to 6 p.m. in the United States, 11 p.m. in the UK, 4:30 a.m. in India, and 7 a.m. in the Philippines. This incredibly coordinated effort ensures that the ministry's core message and mission are actively being engaged with around the clock across the globe without a single interruption.
As we wrap up this explainer, we come right back to the core challenge the author presents to his readers. The devotional concludes with a final note urging believers to prepare their hearts and lives for the return of Jesus Christ. Based on everything we've just unpacked, from the foundational definition of holiness and the historical warnings to the massive global infrastructure built to sustain this exact message, it leaves us with a deeply personal, provocative question. Are there areas God is calling you to consecrate? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep seeking to understand the fascinating messages shaping our world.
Thank you for watching. Please share, like, and comment. Your host, God7, David F. Wafulu.